Hello again, my friends. Welcome back to another fabulous episode of Carpo's Thoughts. Oh, wait, I better get my sign. There we go. Just in case you weren't sure of which show. uh, that's perfectly in line with the discussion I'm going to have here. Things happen. Humans happen. I recall a lecture from Alan Watts that I heard years ago, which I recently delved into again, which said people are too hung up on what it means to be people or what God is, the discussion of God. And he talked about an apple tree, and he said, an apple tree, apples. He said, in a similar way that the earth peoples. And he pondered on a alien race that comes across this planet and says, oh, nothing here, just a bunch of rocks. Oh, wait, looks like it's peopling. And the humorous nature with which Alan Watts can tackle any topic, especially Eastern mysticism, is beyond reproach. There's not a single character that I've encountered in all my years of my fascination with religion, with mysticism, spirituality, all the different books I've read, all the different lectures I've heard. Hundreds of hours while everybody's listening to a crappy radio station at work. You know, I was listening to my headphones with Manly P. Hall or Alan Watts or some of the great courses series where they would go through each philosopher and their various ideals. And I found most philosophers to be so rigid that they were ridiculous. And I also found philosophers of the old were like scientists. They were so stubborn in their viewpoints of the world. Many of them refused to even engage in such trivial discourse as they might be wrong. Even though we revere these people, and we should, because of their thoughts, their thinking, what it brought us to this point. Eventually, it brought us to Descartes, which can remind us that the greatest wisdom lies in knowing you know nothing, which is derived from the idea that the more you think about life, the more you know you can't really prove or know anything for sure, but that you can know one thing for sure, that you're thinking. You don't need to know why or how. Doesn't matter whether you're living in an illusion or what they would call the Maya. Maya meant illusion. And many cultures through history have believed we're living in some sort of an illusory state. Perhaps a staging ground for a better life, or perhaps this is the better life and then we go back to the staging ground. We really don't know. And any human being out there, any human being who tells you that they know the truth about life and purpose and death is full of shit. Complete shit. Utter shit. Like the worst kind of shit. The really stinky baby poop. The like really yellow stuff that just oozes out of the edge of the diaper on an airplane where you're surrounded by a packed plane of passengers. That kind of poop. And I'm not here to demean anybody else's lifetime of searching where they believe that they've found the ultimate truth. But let's be honest here. With all the hubbub and arguments and debates that people have, these exist for a reason. That's because philosophy is not settled. Truth is not settled. And it never will be. Why should it be? And how boring would it be if all the truths were settled? Can you imagine if every fucking human agreed on every topic and we went about our lives like a cult? Because that's basically what a cult is. Because deep down inside, you would never get all humans to believe and think the same way. It's just not possible. Even if you were to eliminate everyone with a different viewpoint and only save your group, that group would eventually divide itself into separate camps. Because that's just what fucking humans do. We are corrupted, but that corruption is naturally perfect. I had a discussion, I think, earlier. It was with my mom. We were texting about that, and I said, I don't believe that humans can really be corrupt in the extreme sense. What I meant was, we were talking about whether there are different layers to existence, different purposes, afterlives, whatever it might be. And I said that all I know is that I'm doing the best I can here. And hopefully that's good enough. And that's how I've felt firmly for many years. I don't talk much about spirituality or religion, but it's a huge part of my life. Sitting at the stoplight on my way to work today, actually, no, it was on my way to lunch, sorry. And I was driving down to Popeyes to get a sandwich, and couldn't resist. It sounded so good. And I'm sitting there at the stoplight, and I look over at this trailer from this, there's a trucker hauling, it doubles, 2 trailers. And I'm just looking at the back of this trailer where the 2 trailers connect as we're waiting for the light to change. And I'm inspecting the coupler that connects the 2 trailers, the backup chains, the hooks, and the stainless steel construction of the trailer itself. All those welds. And I was looking at one of those welds on the back and thinking, some guy did that, but some other guy made that steel, and so on down the line. Through history, all the amazing things we've discovered about this planet that have helped us to manipulate it in a way that allowed us to create something like a truck. That doesn't even bring into, the engine itself. And these things to me are spiritual. They're divine, if you will. It's hard to explain. They're like moments of meditation, almost like Satori, or an awakening. In certain ancient traditions, a bodhisattva is like kind of an enlightened one, right? And so the idea is that you're looking to enlighten yourself by experiencing the world around you, by taking it in for what it is. But there's also the pondering that comes along with that, looking at things and thinking of them differently. I first noticed this when I was in my early 20s, when I was a roofer working with my friend. Actually, I was late teens, I think, maybe 20-ish. And my friend and I had been doing roofing, and we were driving around town and noticing all the different roofs. Oh, look, there's some Prezis, which are presidential shingles. And we're like, oh yeah, there's some architectural shingles, and oh, that one has tile, and looking at the different pitches. And it was kind of a satori, which is like kind of an epiphany, awakening moment, where I realized, I was like, wow, everyone else who drives down this road sees the road and the trip completely differently than I do. If a person is a window installer, they're looking at the types of windows that they have. If the person works in yards and landscaping, they're looking to see if they need their lawn mowed. If a person works on the roads, they're literally looking at the road to see if there's potholes in the road. Perhaps they build fences and they're seeing what kind of picket fences are in front of the yard. Or maybe they are an astrologist and they're looking up at the sky. Maybe they study climate and they're looking at the rain or the type of weather in that area. It's fucking endless. The way people think, the different ways people think. And I thought that by today, in this year, like at least in the 2020s, I really, when I was younger, thought that I hoped that people would have evolved mentally to a point where they could accept everyone's differences while still standing up for the bullshit. In other words, it's become a clusterfuck out there. And people are getting way too hung up on what's going on out there. Okay? When I was younger, we watched the news. Sure. We might talk about a war that's going on somewhere. We might talk about some local stalker or something that's going on in the local news, right? It really wasn't until the 2000s when national news and international news took on 24/7 headlines to where everything is breaking news. And now everyone thinks that everybody else is fucked. They're constantly pointing to somebody else as the source of their problems. Maybe it's the terrorists. Maybe it's our own government, I have my own qualms with many of the institutions. But I also don't deny that I am still my own keeper. I am still responsible for my own actions, my own truth, my own reality, and the way I perceive the world. And nothing I say, fucking nothing I do or say, is going to change the way the world operates on a macro level. Nor do I want it to. And I think that we're so hung up often on what's going on outside of us that we don't take the time to look at what's going on inside of us. In our hearts, the way we truly feel about each other. The kindness that we have for each other that's really in there. And you all know what's in there. I don't care how fucking brutal your shell is, how tough you think you are, or, oh, I don't need connections, I don't need people. That's fine, but most of us do. And it's very disheartening when people don't realize that none of this shit matters in the long run. It really does not. In fact, working to improve the world for our descendants is probably more rewarding than improving it for ourselves. Even though we're selfish creatures by nature, we want to help each other. Altruism is built into our bones. It drives some people crazy. There are some people who are so kind and they share everything with others. Most of us feel good when we give to other people. Sure, that benefits us and them. But there are some people who don't have that. The sociopaths, for example. They don't understand that emotion. And they often are the ones who become CEOs and become extremely greedy, or major investors that will trample over anyone and invest in anything in order to make a buck. If you're willing to compromise your morals and your integrity for a quick buck, it will never bring you happiness. And I firmly believe this to be true. Building an honest living, an honest wage, an honest income, building an honest empire, if that's what you want to do, is one of the most rewarding things you can do. The businesses I've started for myself in the past, my own construction company, I started my own, herb business, the little loopholes you have to jump through, taking tests, licenses, things like that, buying bonding and insurance. It's all a bunch of big pain in the ass, but in the end, you're rewarded with the knowledge that you took effort and did something that you feel benefited society and yourself. It's that simple. It really is that simple. In other words, I guess the point I'm making here is that people can tell you how to live your life. People can tell you what's the best path to happiness. But ultimately, you've got to go by your heart and your gut. You've got to go by experience too, and you've got to try different things. You've got to get out there. You've got to see what works for you. We know what's working and what isn't. So with that, thanks for listening. That's my rant for the day, and hope you enjoyed it. And if you didn't, then, well, tough shit, because I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to encourage other people to think differently in a way that benefits them, not differently in a way that benefits me or my belief system, because my belief system is that all we need is our own belief systems. No one can teach you how to be you. And it seems so simple. Some of these things are very zen in the sense they can't be expressed. You would call it ineffable or unspeakable, undescribable. And we need more of that. So if you find yourself in a rut, if you find yourself confused, if you find yourself wondering what to do next, maybe go back and turn on some Alan Watts. And if you've never heard him, I highly recommend it. It's everywhere, on YouTube, Spotify, whatever. I downloaded a few lectures that I'd heard several years ago, and I was reinvigorated and renewed with that knowledge that it's all a riddle, Last few years have been rough on a lot of people, and I'm trying to pull myself out of kind of my own rut. I think a lot of us are. So be strong and make it work. And don't have expectations. Don't try to overdo it. Don't have expectations for yourself that are way ridiculous, but especially for other people, because we're all just people. Even though we cross paths and interact with language in certain ways, some of us are bad at interacting in voice, but maybe we do the same job. Maybe we speak a different language, but we're both carpenters, whatever it might be. We bond in certain ways, and we've got to make that more of a priority in our lives to see how other people live in order to not be so judgmental. And don't get me wrong, judgment is important. Judging is how we determine whether we're gonna, should walk down a certain alley or whether another person may be a threat. Don't let people tell you that judgment is a bad thing, but we can think it through. That's all. And most of our assumptions are incorrect most of the time when it comes to the big picture. So I bid you farewell. Thanks for listening. You can check out my podcast, 15 Minute Free Thinking. Also, if you want to donate, you can go to Patreon at Carpo719. I have some extras there. And you can leave a comment, hit a like button, all that shit, whatever the normal things people do on YouTube and elsewhere. I'm still trying to navigate this world. I think the rest of you are too. And let's make it work. All right? Peace.